From idea to reality, navigating startup costs and budgeting. Hello, everyone. My name is Tessa. I'm a marketing strategist for IdeaPros, and I have Fred Cary here with me. Hello, Fred.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I have been asked to do this subject over and over and over this week, so I am so glad that we are able to bring this to you guys, the startup costs and budgeting, because it's so important for your business.
And it's a subject that I actually hate. It's
Me too.
not actually the subject I hate. This is a lot of really hard work. But we're going to go through it and see if we can make it easier.
Perfect. So, but obviously, when you say it's hard work, that's because there's different levels of businesses that you're going to have different needs. I should say you're going to have different needs at different stages in your business, really, right?
Yeah, but even the simplest mom and pop type business that you're never going to go out and seek outside capital, um, even that, it's really important to get your arms around the finances, like what it's going to take to start your business, what it's going to take to maintain your business, and what it's going to take to grow your business. So all of a sudden, all that math that we hated in high school that we thought would never have a need for, now it really comes front and center because if you can't control your spend and anticipate your revenues, then you're going to fail and you're going to fail fast.
So we have some resources, but did you want to kick us off with a little bit? Which one do you want to do first, I should say?
I think fundamentally, we all have to have our arms around what it takes to actually start our business from the very beginning. Now, people who are partners of ours, they get to forego a lot of these things because they're all included in the package that we have when we become co-founders together. But for the rest of you, um, just having this dream of starting something and not being able to get into the kind of deep dark underbelly of the reality of all the different expenses that you have in front of you is going to put you in a position where you're going to be bewildered, shocked, and dismayed at the costs as they come rambling in. So the very first thing I'd like to share is kind of this startup cost analyzer. We're going to share these with
Yes.
everybody, right?
Yes, we are. We are. I will do it with you. So, yes, we created this. It's a document that you can play with the numbers on, which is awesome. Let's see if it will decide to show my screen the way it should. Come on, we just did this. Okay, so I will make it bigger. I know that you all are looking from phones and every different device. So this template will, if you want this template, just let us know that you want the budgets, plural, and I'll send you all the ones that we're going to cover today. It is a document where you can make a copy. I know you all are familiar with Google Sheets, but if you hit file and then make a copy, you'll be able to view it, but you won't be able to edit it until you create a copy. So that said, this document goes into forecasting based on an estimated budget. So you're actually able to put what you think your budget is, and it's going to break down and tell you if it's high enough, which is so cool. I know Fred and I spent a ton of time coming up with this. Several years ago. So we may have to go back through the numbers, Fred, to make sure that everything's still relevant, but this is pretty accurate still from what I've researched recently. But do you want to explain what these different areas are for the startup?
Yeah, I mean, if we go down to the different validation parts of it, right,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you really start. When you have this idea and you think it's going to be the next great thing, your quote unquote $1 million idea or $1 billion idea, as the case may be, you don't really know if it is all that it's cracked out to be. And so the very fundamental thing you need to worry about when you want to implement this idea and start spending money against it is to figure out whether or not the idea has legs. And so this validating the product is very, very important for anybody. And by the way, we actually have a little package that does that
We do.
for a
We
couple $1,000. But this is
Yes. Well, I know. I was just going to say it's on estimated 15K to 70K for the things that we're offering for a couple thousand. So yes, definitely. If you want help figuring out if you can validate to get this piece figured out, we will send you guys the access to our packages over that.
Yeah. So, how I like to describe this part of it, as entrepreneurs, we want to go turn the lights on and get in business. And it's kind of like if I, and I've talked about this before, if I asked you to be the coach of my professional sports team and you start asking me questions like, well, what sport is it? And I tell you, I don't know. And what are the rules? I don't know. Who are the competitors? What are their strengths? What are their weak points? Well, I don't know. Well, what's the purpose of the game? How long does it last? How much can I win? How do I get that audience that are up in the stands? How do I get them to become my fans? I don't know. If you saw that happening in sports, you'd go insane. You'd be like, how stupid is this? This guy doesn't know anything about anything. And yet, when we start our businesses, we're kind of the I don't know folks. And so
Mhm.
this validation in the beginning, like really understanding the marketplace, like what's the size of the market? What's the growth of the market? Where are the holes in the marketplace that you can penetrate? What are the competitors like? What are their strengths? What are their weak points? How do we find the customers that we really want and how do we deliver to them the things that we believe are really important and they validated for us through this market research that we're going to do. Without all those things, we don't know whether we're playing football or soccer or basketball or hockey. We
Right.
don't know
Right.
any of those things, right? So that's why this is really important. And
Mhm. And I just want to say that we estimated that about the average person spends to get their product. We have two tabs in here, by the way, for our app people. That is a different model. It's down at the bottom. This is product. There's an app. Costs are slightly different because obviously you're not having to go to manufacturing and design a product and prototype. But this is based on a product going to market on average costs 500,000. You can change this number if you think that, or you've gotten a quote for something that's less, it is going to change the numbers. Although we found some sections will turn red if it doesn't think you're at least have that much about this percentage for that item. Because some people will put in, oh, 10,000. Well,
But make it
most of the areas
make
are
it
going to be red.
100,000.
A
Make it 100,
100,000.
whether or not you can.
Yes, it's basically saying, hey, you know what? On average, you probably will need at least 15,000. Very rarely can you get a product to market for under 100,000 with prototyping and all the pieces,
Scroll down and see how many of those are in red.
like all of them. But this is just based on what we've seen and industry. Oh, look, you can manage the processes within that budget. That's probably it. But it is nice because you can play with the numbers here. Everything else kind of calculates based on what we found in percent of the total budget. Of course, that can vary. And if you work with IdeaPros, it's way less. I think I saw Robert over there. He says, just glad I didn't know what the total cost would be to begin with. Robert, he's got UpGig. It's live. You guys have to check it out. It's an app. It is awesome. I'm so excited for him. But he's in that phase right now. He's actually going to have to be doing his operating budget, which is another spreadsheet we have for you too.
Yeah, that comes next. And Robert, good news for you. You saved about $400,000. And
Congratulations. We do have in this one the launch the app. Obviously, you're working on getting a concept, a lot of the same categories as far as marketing, business and naming. Of course, the biggest chunk in this space is the actual app development. And I love how we have development spelled wrong. So I'll have to fix that, but no biggie. So you can play with the numbers in this sheet as well. Again, goes through very, the things that are motivating and that you need to spend money on. But the operating costs. Do you want to go to slide bean or do you want to go to my simple sheet?
no, let's go. Let's go to the other one. And before we do, so anyway, this is what you need when you're getting ready, day one, sitting around with your cup of coffee or your bourbon, a glass of wine or Coca-Cola, and you're ready to talk through this with your partner, your husband, your wife, or just in a dim room by yourself. Uh,
It
you
is a
really,
little bit of an eye opener, but if you think about it, I mean, marketing, these are all pretty standard if you look up the numbers anyway, but you have to put money in to get a business or app going, your business product app. Like you have to put money in to be able to get it to start selling. So it's an eye opener, but I
really,
think you're right, Fred. I think we said we neither of us love the budgeting part, but you have to learn to like the numbers. And if you don't love them, like you said, do something that you enjoy. Listen to the music that you love, or creating this like a budget, and these sheets don't have to be painful if you put yourself in the right mindset. Like I'm going to accomplish this amazing thing now because I'm going to put the budget together.
I actually I disagree. It's going to be painful no matter what you.
It is.
So
Look, it's a little less painful when you have your glass of wine or you're, listening to music you like. I
but
just have to say.
before you go to the next part, why don't you go down this list a little bit? Because the first
Yes.
we go through each element of this and why it's important. So the first part is the validation of your product, right? We did
Mhm.
go through that.
Oh, do you want me to go back to the product tab? Is that easier? Yes.
This,
So let
this,
me change my number back so you guys it will put 250 so we can see some green slots instead. But that's within the average budget for sure. Okay.
all right, so the next one is naming and
Mhm.
branding and positioning, right? Fundamentally, the the persona of your organization lives here. And if you can't find a way to distinguish yourself from your competitors, you're just going to be a run of the mill small competitor. You have to change the game and starts with changing the name. Oh, I love that. Write that down. Um,
Changing the game starts with changing the name.
the reality is, how do I become the Apple to the IBM? How do I become the Virgin Airlines to British Air? How do I stand out from the crowd? And people sometimes talk about, well, it's just a name. I go on Fiverr and pay somebody a couple $100 to do that. If you really understand what naming and branding is all about, it's one of the most strategic things that you can be doing. You really need to separate yourself from the crowd and have something that's evocative, that's memorable. Evocative, Apple, right? What the heck does that mean? It makes people think, it makes people remember, it makes people come up with theories. Is it Adam and Eve? Is it Newton with the apple? Is it an apple a day, keeps you happy and makes the teeth happy? What what are those things?
Keeps the viruses away in the case of Mac.
Or Virgin, what is it? God, I'm not going to fly planes with Virgin pilots, and all of a sudden you recognize you're the Virgin because it's an experience that's different from other airlines, right? And that you've never flown like this before. And so those are very memorable, evocative names that when you first hear of them, and I've used this example before, if you're sitting in a crowd of 1,000 consumers and this little guy in a black t-shirt walks up to the stage and talks about how he wants to kind of change the game in the computer industry and he wants to compete against IBM and digital equipment and Microsoft and all those industrial names and wants to call his company Apple, there's probably not one person in those 1,000 people that would raise their hand and say that's a really good idea. And yet it's one of the probably the top brand value of any company out there, followed by Nike. I think is probably they're probably one and two, right? The little swish that they have, and so the reality is this is one of the most important things that you can do is to establish yourself as being different from others and living up to that difference in everything you do, right? Apple think different, and so everything that they do is based around their name, their positioning, their branding, the imagery that they want you to have. And that's why you can't go out and get $1,000 name, a $500 name, because anybody can name something that sounds clever, but it takes very special, strategic, very well and highly experienced professionals to really come up with a distinguishable brand that you can take to the races.
And that is also, your voice, your how you're going to keep everything consistent. I mean, it's the big picture of what that looks like, because you could have, if you went to Fiverr, you have this name over here, this person thought of it, this person's doing the logo, and they don't have the same, mind process for what that is. It can end up disjoining your brand a lot. And so with a team like with IdeaPros, obviously Bobby's amazing at graphic design and naming and just the overall feel of a brand. It's so much more. And then you don't have to go figure out how to do it after that.
Well, we use the same or similar processes that a branding agency in New York might use and charge you $150,000 for.
Right. It's that level of quality. And we've had people say that, like, I wish I had the comment from one of our partners, but Ahmad, just to answer your question, we do not only do marketing. We're so much more than just marketing. In fact, we don't actually do the marketing after partners launch. This is mostly how would you put it, Fred, like the core of what the business is and what the product and app are going to be.
So to answer your question, we do two things. If you become a partner of ours, and we also have compartmentalized things that we do as well, pieces of the puzzle. But if you became a full partner, like a lot of people watching right now, we create the entrepreneur and we create the business. So basically, if you have an idea, we do all the heavy lifting. We show you what we're doing, why we're doing it, and we basically become your co-founder. So we literally do everything, and then when it's time for you to go live, like one of the earlier comments, then you fly out of the nest, and we're sitting there and being your minority co-founder, and we're there to give you strategic advice all along the way and to give you connections and inside knowledge.
I think we describe it as we help to build the car, but you are going to really drive that car and pick the destination. But if you were in a race car, you would have a coach in your ear that's telling you, hey, right here coming up is a really drastic turn. There's an accident here. Like, think of us as the coach in your ear. And obviously we've got an awesome pit crew that can help if something needs to be changed, but it's really you driving the car. You've got to get in and put the gas in, which is your marketing dollars or your time and effort into getting that out there. So it can be a brand like Mac or, Apple or Nike. In the end, you have to drive.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a couple other things I want to show on this because we just got through branding, and that's maybe step 2. So step 3, if it's a product you're engineering and sourcing, this is a huge chunk in product development. Obviously, prototyping, actually finding a company that can produce it, getting that actually made. It's an amazing process.
Yeah,
we have Wes.
We do all of that except for the prototyping part. Our partners have to pay for their own prototypes because you never know what they're going to cost. Mm-hmm. But one of the fatal things that we do as entrepreneurs is we go right to this part. We don't even really engineer it. We go out and try to get a patent. And that's a big, huge mistake, because you're going to end up like 97% of all other issued patents in America, they've never been developed. 97%. You're throwing your money away to the government. And the reason they never get developed is because we do things ass backward. We get our patent first. We haven't had our engineering. We haven't seen there's a demand for this thing. We don't know if we can produce it at a cost point that people are willing to pay for it. So there's a lot of work that has to take place first before you even think about getting a patent. And once you've figured out all those elements of the first 2 sections of what we're talking about, then this part of it, now you can comfortably know, because of all the research you've done, there's a place for this if I make it, and let me get it produced, engineered, let me find a manufacturer, and then go get a patent, because now I know I have a manufacturable product at a price point that people will pay for it, and now I can go protect it if I have IP capabilities.
Perfect. Well, obviously that's a strategy in itself. So knowing what to do, when to do it, that's a lot of what we advise our partners on, right? So we're giving them that coaching so that they can get through all of these. But we do have it broken down in here. Again, it's based on, I would say, if you want to use this for your product, just estimate that 500,000, and then you can get more accurate numbers in these ranges. Pre-orders, that one's obviously, this is a strategy of going to put up a website and getting either reservations or pre-orders before you actually are buying all the products.
Or doing crowdfunding.
Or crowdfunding, but it's very strategic, and there are rules as far as you can't take pre-orders like months and years in advance. You can take reservations, but not pre-orders. So that part is what we're talking about there. And then we get into the actual e-commerce, how you're going to do your website, press releases. This is the lovely marketing section, influencers, advertising, all of those fun things, good things to put down and just be aware of needing for your business. And then management of processes. We have that same over here on the app. And again, if you want these sheets, just put budgets, plural, in the chat, and I'll give you all of the budgets. We have 3 different ones that we're going to share with you.
Okay, so the next thing, now you got all this stuff figured out, you're going through the process, you're getting yourself worked up to actually go live and have a business. And so depending on the type of business you're going to have, is this a lifestyle business? Am I going to be thrilled if I'm making $100,000, $200,000 a year, and I'm going to be happy there and growing my business slowly or even dramatically and not really needing outside capital? Then even then you really need a simple budgeting tool at the very least, because you have to anticipate what you're going to need to spend money on. You have to anticipate the money that's coming in, so you can make sure that you don't have, as my dad used to call it, too much month for your money.
Yes. Well, we do have a simple budget for you. So this one is going to show some of the typical expenses that you might have. You can put all the money that you're making, all the different 7 streams of income that you got coming in, how you're monetizing it, your payroll, all of those fun things. This is just a basic one. But again, I've been asked over and over for a way to control this. I personally, I don't know about you, Fred, but I use QuickBooks. It's not super easy. So this one is like, if you want to just be able to put the numbers in, but you need accounting software too for your business. You have to track all your expenses and all of your income, and it's easy in QuickBooks or Wave app. I love Wave app for the bookkeeping side, and even FreshBooks. FreshBooks has a fun, if you want fun for your accounting, it is really fun. It actually has a little ship, and if you don't enter your expenses, the ship starts to sink, which I think is a blast. So if you have to be entertained, yeah, FreshBooks is good for that.
Sure how happy I am about sinking ships.
Well, you got to enter your expenses. So if you need the motivation, I mean, every time you come into it, you're like, oh, my ship is back and everyone's happy and partying. So those are just a couple of the accounting resources if you want. But you do pay more to have the budgeting features, which doesn't make sense to me in QuickBooks if you want to have that capability. So definitely, I will get you guys this sheet. And then Fred has a much more complex version that we're going to also show.
Yeah. Let me make one more statement about what we just showed and the use of QuickBooks. You got to do it. Otherwise, you're flying by the seat of your pants. You need to understand over time how good your predictions are, how well you have a grasp of your business and the nuances of that business. And it is a nightmare if you don't do this, because if you are doing this and your numbers start being way off, now you can immediately look and say, okay, some of my assumptions aren't right. What's going on? Maybe I thought I could spend this much in advertising and I'd get this kind of return. In fact, I'm getting half the return I expected. And so my numbers are skewed. Can I afford to spend more for marketing? Do I need to change what my pitch is? So you can see, because you're budgeting and because you're on top of the numbers, you when they're not working out, and you can make changes. If you don't have any of that stuff, you're going to wake up one morning and find that your business is closed.
A budget, and this is from Dave Ramsey, a budget isn't about restricting what you can spend. It's giving you permission to spend without guilt or regret. So really it's good for you to get your budget going and to watch it closely, because a lot of us spend a ton of money on software. You don't realize how much those two little apps on your phone or software that you're buying monthly can add up. And I do have to just say that if you use the profit first model, it's my favorite model for any business. I highly recommend it. You actually are taking the profit out first, and then you're getting your last thing that you pay is your operating expenses. So you see, like, here's the bucket of what I should be spending all my money in. Here's what I have left. And it's really, really eye-opening. Like, I only have this much to do my operating budget in. And then you live within your means in that, but you're also making profit. So it makes you feel better about your business as well. But the tool that we have from SlideBean goes into more of what Fred was talking about, like, understanding where you're pivoting and your head count and payroll and all those pieces. So I'm going to put that last one on the screen.
Yeah, and this is very similar to what I use.
Mm.
And what's good about this, you don't need to use it unless you're going to go out and raise capital. If you're going to have outside investors, you need to learn how to be a financially driven CEO, because the only way you get money from people is if you show them that you understand all the nuances of your business, all the growth modeling your business is going to have, and the underlying assumptions that make that growth possible.
And I'm going to give you guys this to go sign up for it, because it's not through us. It's actually through SlideBean. But it's so, I don't think we could create something this complex. Like, well, of course we can. Fred could definitely do that, but that would be a lot of time and work. This has a lot.
Mine's almost exactly like this.
He's like, I have already. But this has cap tables and revenue KPIs, and it's got a dashboard. So I'm going to pop that link in the chat to you all so that you can see it. But this is equally important, especially if you're getting funding.
Yeah, and this shows the impact of the type of funding you're trying to get. Like, how many shares do you have? How many shares are you giving away? What's the value? What do things look like post-funding? What do you think you're going to need money for further down the road? You can anticipate all those things ahead of time. And this is a very thorough model for somebody who wants to use outside capital to grow a business that can end up with 100 million valuation or more. If you go over the, can you go over the head count part of it just so we can share?
Yes, I saw a head count here.
Where is call it something else?
Staff?
Yeah.
Was it head staff one? Okay.
Right. So this one here just outlines like every single position you're going to have, when you're going to start that position, how much you're prepared to pay for them, and they all flow into your expense side of things. And you can just scroll down a little bit.
Developers.
There's a lot of free lines where you can add things into it, but this is really getting complex. And what's beautiful about this is you don't have to create it. It's already there.
Yes, I love it. And it has COGS too, which is when, if you have products, this is really important for you to get all this information down too and know your cost of goods sold for sure. Right.
I believe that they also have kind of hold your hand version of that. You can buy their services along with this if you don't know how to do it right. Another very interesting thing is they have something that you can use in a pitch deck. They have one of the tabs is basically the info that you would place into a pitch deck.
I saw that. It was a tab for pitch deck. I thought pitch deck output, like things that you need to put in the pitch deck for your numbers slide, for sure. Well, and we use Live Plan, which actually has some models in it. Most of our partners start out there, but this is budget. This is business modeling on steroids, right? Your financial model. So definitely go check it out. I put the link in the chat for you all. And again, if you want the budgets in the chat, and I will get you over all the documents that we have and this link. Is there anything else you wanted to close out with, Fred? I know
Yeah.
we're running late today, but then again, we started a little late because I was way off today.
So what I would close this with is this is not sexy. When we talk about marketing and growth and a lot of visionary things all the time, and this is kind of cringy type stuff, but if you don't have this right, none of the other stuff's going to matter. So realize that if you're going to start a business, you got to know the numbers. And if you don't know the numbers, you might as well not even start that business.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you, Fred, for being here. I'm just going to go over and chat with everyone over there. But thank you. We'll see you next time. Thank you. All right, guys. I will just take a couple seconds. I know we have Vanessa. That's a good one. It is tolerable when you have a personal team working with you. Yes, absolutely. And your family is amazing, but it does make it a lot better to be able to go through these financial questions and have right people to talk to about your financial numbers. That's why I know Fred does, he'll point people in the right direction. All of our team will kind of say, okay, you need to get this going for yourself, or you can expect this. Again, it's just nice knowing what's coming around the corner. Have that coach in your ear. Oh, hey, Magdi, nice to see you here. Oh, yes, Jose. And I got rejected. It was without any study and you didn't have any money to make it. You know what? That happens. Unfortunately, it's sad, but an idea has to well, actually, I'm going to bring Fred on for a second here because I know he probably has a word or two to say about this too. So not all ideas can be produced, huh, Fred?
Well, let me just say, and Magni, I would tell you to keep on keeping on. The reality here is that when we have an idea, when we think it's a really, really good idea, then we think people should give us money to go ahead and make it happen. And it's very, very risky when you start something from the ground up. And I have found when we started IdeaPros, I looked at the failures and the successes that I had in the ideas that I developed. And I started 10 different companies and I had a really, really good success rate. And the one thing in common, well, several things were in common, but one glaring thing in common with the successes is that I had my own skin in the game, as they said. I found some way to borrow, beg, steal, get enough money.
He didn't steal.
Enough.
I don't think.
To actually start this, because when you have your own skin in the game, then you're going to persevere even with all the failures in front of you. And every entrepreneur knows or should know or will know that when you start something brand new from the ground up, there are going to be massive number of failures, disappointments, things that you're upset about. You want to scream at your co-founders over. And that's just a natural part of growing something that didn't exist before. And so I found that when you put your own money in, then you can make things happen. If you don't, you're very unlikely to get the capital you need. And I want to leave you with one example. We had a couple of brothers from Canada that came to us and they didn't have any money either. And we showed them how to go out and pitch to their friends and family. And they left. They came back literally 10 days later with $125,000 that they had gone and asked 20 people to contribute, and 18 of them said yes. It's insane, and I don't expect those resources. But again, the more that you understand about what you're trying to do, the more it's a real idea that you really understand your competitors, you really understand where you're going to fit in the market, you really understand how you're going to go win those consumers and make them your loyal advocates. Once you have all of that in place, then you can go out and raise some money and have enough to get started on your journey.
That's perfect. Well, and keep watching us. If you're Dustin, if you really want to create something, we have so many resources for you. Tons and tons of blogs at ideapros.com/blog with all the best advice. We have checklists. We have, we really spend a lot of time to give people the most information so that they can be successful and maybe get the funds that you need to be able to start your idea. So we have pitch deck shows that we did about pitch decks, about how to put together, like financial models, everything. So definitely stay with us and subscribe so that you can get the information. I know we want you to be successful for sure.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So I think that's it for today. I'm going to put you back down there, Fred. He's like, sure you are. Oh, Vanessa said she had to borrow and it all worked out. Yes. And, we all have, I'm sure at some point borrowed for our business to make sure that we can take it to the next level, to get it off the ground for sure. Hello, Kelly. Good to have you here. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate you. And like I said, we're here for you as entrepreneurs, but as people. Fred has an Instagram channel, Official Fred Cary. If you need some inspiration or you need to be recharged just to get that business, your personal side as well as your business side going, to get those habits and that CEO mindset dialed in, you can check out Official Fred Cary over on Instagram. And we're here Friday at noon Pacific time every single week. We'll see you all next week. Have a blessed week. Bye.